Good evening, buenas noches, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at the locally based, independently owned bookstore, Books and Books in Miami, Florida, and in partnership with the Bakehouse Art Complex and Miami Book Fair, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual evening with Mina Stone, in conversation with Dara Friedman to celebrate the publication of Mina's new book, Lemon, Love, and Olive Oil, published by our friends at HarperCollins. Throughout this evening's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by using the Ask a Question feature at the bottom of the screen, and we hope you'll order your copy of Lemon, Love, and Olive Oil from Books and Books below. It'll make a great holiday gift, and it's not too soon to start thinking about those. We appreciate every order that helps to keep our doors open. And now I'd like to bring Kathy Leff to the virtual stage. Kathy is a longtime supporter and friend to Books and Books. She is currently the director of the Bakehouse Art Complex, one of the oldest artist serving organizations in Miami. And here we go. Welcome, Kathy.
Thank you,
Hello.
Christina, and good to see you. And thank you, Books and Books and the Miami Book Fair, for co-hosting this evening's program. And I thank all of you for joining us tonight. A recording of this program will be available on the Books and Books and Bakehouse Art Complex YouTube channels. So if any of your friends missed this program tonight, please feel free to share that with them. I'm delighted to introduce our guests, Mina Stone and Dara Friedman. Mina is an author and beloved chef. Mina is author and chef beloved by artists. She's cooked lunches at artist Urs Fischer's Brooklyn studio and is the go-to chef for New York's gallery scene. In 2019, she opened her own restaurant, Mina's, housed in MoMA's PS1 in Long Island City, Queens. Dara Friedman, who will moderate the conversation, is a German-born artist and filmmaker working in Miami. She uses everyday sights and sounds as raw material for film and video artworks that reverberate with emotional energy. She also is a close friend of Mina's and has had the pleasure of hosting and attending Mina's meals. Tonight, as Christina mentioned, we're celebrating Mina's just released second book, Lemon, Love, and Olive Oil, a collection of recipes and reflections written during the pandemic. This and her first book, a cult favorite, Cooking for Artists, and also illustrated by Urs Fischer, can be purchased through Books and Books below. And they're really wonderful. They're wonderful recipes, stories, journal-like, with beautiful illustrations. So I really, like Christine, encourage you to buy the book now or buy both books now. About 2 years ago, after attending dinner at Bakehouse Art Complex, Dara insisted I meet Mina. She had no particular agenda in mind, but intuited something great would emanate from the connection. As bread making and breaking bread is part of the DNA of Bakehouse, we were elated Mina consented to be the guest chef for our upcoming 35th anniversary celebration, which takes place November 12th. She will be cooking some of the recipes from this new cookbook, and we encourage you, if you're interested, you can find out information on tickets at the Bakehouse Art Complex website. Dara, we are honored, will be among our honorary artists for that same November 12th event. Bakehouse, as Christine mentioned, is one of the largest and oldest serving artist organizations. We are working home to more than 100 artists. We're presently on a path to add affordable housing for artists and others to our 2.3-acre site and renovate our historic bakery building for 21st century art production. So I'd now like to turn the program over to Mina and Dara, and I know you all will be in for a treat. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Kathy. Hi, Mina.
Hi, Dara. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you very much, Christina, too, for the introduction. I saw you for a little bit earlier, virtually, Mina, and I just want to smooch you and hug you. And,
I want to do the same.
Anyway, okay, so Lemon, Love, and Olive Oil. It's a beautiful, special book. And so I want to first talk about the title a little bit. lemon, love, and olive oil. And it's sort of a list of ingredients. And we'll talk about lemon and olive oil, but I also really want to talk about love. And then when you say it, I just want to note that as a total aside, when you say lemon, love, and olive oil, it rolls off the tongue like Gina Lolo Brigida, which is what we were told to say, right? When you learn to perform fellatio, lemon, love, no. Anyway, love. So I was thinking about it, Mina, and then I realized your book, with all its stories, are many versions of love. And I read in your introduction that cooking's become more important for you than ever now, and you just sort of left it hanging there, and then sort of the book begins. And so then I realized, oh, Mina's Greek, like Plato. And then I looked up, I was like, oh my gosh, right? The Greeks have 8 different words for love. And I really feel, actually, going through your book and your recipes and your stories, that you have added to this notion of love. You really flavored it and colored it and enriched what love means to me now. So, first of all, okay. So here, the meatball story is just the most romantic story ever. The story of you and Alex rolling meatballs. Here we've got, how do you pronounce it, Mina?
It's pronounced Yurvalakia.
Yurvalakia.
Yeah. And if you want to, say it with an American accent, you can just say Yurvalakia. But it's Yurvalakia.
Yurvalakia. So, okay, I'm actually going to go through the 8 different versions of love because,
I'm into it.
Yeah. So this idea of rolling the meatballs. So it's a romantic story, rolling 200 meatballs with Alex. And then I was thinking about it too, like you have this sort of little meat in your hand. It's kind of weird, but sort of amazing. And you make them. And so I realized that this notion of eros, sort of romantic or sexual love, is colored with wisdom and care and sort of understanding. And that's kind of amazing. I do have to give you room to talk too. Sorry, I have this whole lecture on love prepared, but you just need to interrupt me and jump in.
I mean, it's kind of great to hear you talk about it. And I was thinking before we started I was excited to do this with you because I think I'm always kind of on the edge waiting to talk about the emotional components about things, especially when it comes to food. And it's, I think there's a lot of conversation about it, but it fueled so much of writing the cookbook. And so it's nice to get the chance to actually talk about it. And I appreciate you opening that door. And when I knew that when you called me earlier, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do the whole thing on love and the 8 forms of love that Plato speaks about. I was like, Dara better keep this PG because my parents are tuned in and, and you opened up right with meatballs, arrows, so thank you. Sorry, Dad. In general, yeah, go ahead.
But speaking to your dad, I don't know if did I already tell the story, or did I tell the story when we were in intro? When I read the introduction from your father, I all of a sudden realized that my face was wet, and I was so moved by it. And this is what's the filial love? Wait, I have it in my notes. Come on, not agape.
The love of self, or philia, which is deep friendship.
Well, what is the family love, the love that you have for your children?
I think it's called storge. Yeah.
Yeah, storge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and that is infused in all the recipes, really. This bond, like that one line where you have on the what you're amazed what your parents can do with a can of tuna fish, and then going back to the different grandparents, and 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 this notion really of this thread of love that gets passed through food, and it's fully there, and the fact that you've dedicated your book to your parents is beautiful and telling, and somehow I'm really grateful for that.
Thanks, Dara.
Yeah,
I mean, the book is, as I go through the book, and I joked about it with my mother today because I'm in Boston with my parents, but I'm like, this is all about you, Mom. When I read the book through, it is really pulling on all these memories I have about food and my experience growing up between Greece and the US, and my father's family is also interwoven in that, but it was more impactful, the traveling back and forth from Greece, and the contrast of those memories is something I felt came out pretty easily in writing in the book.
well, you sort of flavor this notion of family love and you define for us the term of nostalgia, which I really loved, and you break it down into nostos, to return home, and algos, for pain. And so here we are, we have sort of this flavor, this bitterness, of love too. And you talk about lemons, the lemon being bright, but they're also sharp, and how all these sort of notions come together, and just introducing this concept of nostalgia and breaking it down as both pain and returning home is huge. Pretty well done.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Pretty
I was talking about the nostalgia chapter of the book today because, and one thing, I should mention to the audience as well, is that I was thinking a lot about when I talked to Dara last April in 2020. She was the first person I interviewed for a series of interviews I did called Cooking with Artists for MoMA magazine. And it was inspired by why people are searching for food and cooking as a source of comfort. And I kind of leaned into my audience of artists. And Dara was the first one I interviewed. And I remember being really nervous for the first interview with you, just because the platform was relatively new too. So it was, and a huge part of writing this book was actually inspirations and lessons I learned from those interviews. And I interviewed an artist named Wafa Bilal, who's Iraqi, and we were talking about nostalgia a lot. And I thought it was really interesting because what he said about nostalgia is that the pain and longing comes from you trying to revisit something that no longer exists. And so he chooses to bring it into the present, sort of recognize that and not get trapped in the pain of nostalgia. And it really stayed with me. It stays with me to this day because it feels like he said something so clear and that was so relatable, that in the searching, you're revisiting, and in the writing, you almost can let it go because it is gone and it doesn't exist.
That's true.
Yeah.
I've learned a really similar thing during this time, but for me, it was sort of understanding the spiral, so that, you can actually return to something, you can revisit it, but neither you are the same, nor the place or the whatever you're revisiting is the same. So you actually can't, like this idea that life is circular, I was like, bullshit. Like it really is this spiral, and this is this sort of pain of seeing things as you sort of turn the kind of the mountain of life and sort of spiral on. You kind of glimpse it, but you sort of keep moving, and yeah, it's and that is actually the only way forward, is in this spiral motion. We can't function in a linear way. It's just not how it goes. So this nostalgia, this pain of revisitation is part of moving forward.
Yeah.
And there's some real gorgeousness and wisdom to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the nostalgia, it's a good one. So also, coming together, the idea of okay, two things: agape, unconditional love for everyone, right? The multitudes too, all your PS warm-ups and the Santorini dogs. Where are they? I have to find the picture. Christina doesn't like my little things, but the feeding the multitudes and the chickpeas and the endlessness.
Yeah. Community cooking.
Yeah.
Which is, I came into sort of in a different way, because I started doing gallery dinners. But at the time when I started cooking in my 20s, I didn't think gallery dinner. I just thought 40 people, 60 people, and how do I do that? And so it was a slow learning process to figure out how to cook for a crowd. And something I thought about too when I was writing this book is that I sort of was around that energy from a very young age, because in Greece, my grandmother and my mother now, they get up at 8 a.m. and they do the cooking for the day, and it's done. And so, and it's very similar. It's exactly how I cook for a large crowd. It's something that you can prepare ahead of time. You save the salad or this last dish, that has to be made a little before serving, but really you're making something, whether it's for 8 people or 800 people, and you're learning the timing. And that was one of the most important lessons, because there's nothing worse than a stressed out cook, I think.
Right. Which is philantia, self-love. And
You're right. I like that you tied that in. I didn't know where that one was gonna fit in.
But so starting at 8, doing your homework, get an early start, don't procrastinate, and also what you say, like I'm a very hands-off cook. You talk about like sort of a lot of the bean and chickpea recipe. I made this one this summer. It was amazing.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was great. But it takes me to the mop story, which I found so instructive. And you're so chilled out when you cook for 100, 200 people. It's just like, what the hell? You're sort of sitting, having chats, having drinks. I'm like, Mina, what are you doing? You're like, fine, I got it. It's fine. Like, it's extraordinary. It's absolutely masterful. It's super cool. And it brings me to the story of the mop, which I love. The story of the mop in the book, where will you just tell it quickly? Or I can tell. Yeah, tell it.
I talk about learning how to mop was a pivotal moment for me. I learned how to mop from this man named Joe Rankatori. He owns an ice cream shop. This is the introduction to the dessert section. And I just thought about this a lot throughout my work life, where when I was 14, I had this, those huge industrial mops. It was like my second day on the job, and I was trying to mop in the ice cream shop, and Joe was like, Mina, that's not how you mop. Mopping should be effortless. Let the mop do the work for you. And it was something, I don't know, it always stayed with me for the rest of my life.
We talk about that in art making too, that you let it's a sort of a truth to materials. you sort of learn how to, Mark taught me how to saw, that the teeth do the work, how to use your tools properly so they're serving you and you're not fighting them. And it's a huge sort of step in mastery that you gotta, of course you have to work, you have to do things, but you have to not do unnecessary things. And it's really important to remember that. So that also ties into this flavor of wisdom that you bring to love, which I think are connected, wisdom and love. They're,
Right.
Plato would agree, or maybe seriously. Anyway, but these desserts, these desserts are amazing, and some of your simplest desserts are now like this has become a staple with me. I make this for lunch every day.
Really?
Just pears or apples with cinnamon. Oh yeah, like you've actually taught me how to cook. This is like a whole vocabulary of cooking with really. I'm not kidding, because it's so simple and delicious, and in teaching me how to cook, I mean, I sort of witnessed this thing of us all sort of coming together and eating together, and like I can't now imagine an art experience without sitting down to eat together. When it's not there, you're like, wait a second, like, what's up? We need to sit together and celebrate not only the art, but to celebrate our friendship.
Yeah, the two are very entwined, right?
They really are. And it's so I was sort of mentioning it to my daughter Violet yesterday. It's sort of like this kind of international passport. It gives you access to people you don't know simply because you love them for what they do, and it's a bridge, and but you really, I don't know, it was really fantastic to learn it together. I was sort of remembering the first big dinner that we did together in my garden. Right? Do you remember?
I do remember it. It was also a formative experience for me.
What was like your fantasy? I was like, it was like I had like the school of the mind of a middle schooler. I was like, yeah, let's have a party. It'll be awesome.
Well, it was actually this. So for everybody that doesn't know, this was like 20 years ago or something. It was a long time ago, 15 years ago, maybe. And Dara and Mark have a really beautiful, usually a dinner every year during Basel in Miami.
Yeah.
During the art fairs in Miami. And I remember this dinner where Gavin Brown at the time was like, Mina, you should come out to Miami and you should cook this dinner. And I was like in my 20s, and I was like, okay, sure, that sounds amazing. And it was just very funny because I think it was like you and me, and we had really just met, and I was staying at Dara's house. And we
I thought we could cook everything like in a hole in the ground in the garden. It was like, I was like, yeah, of course.
We dug this hole out, but then what happened was actually really cool because everybody just ended up doing together.
Right.
Like Gavin started grilling the salmon, and Alex and Dara, and everybody started helping, and then it ended up being this really fun kind of yes, way to bring it full circle. Parea, which means friendship and company.
Right.
It's a really big deal in Greek culture. It is, I think, an essential part of the culture is living their life with parea and having that, I don't know, help you live until you're 100 and something years old.
Yeah, this idea of that not only do we eat together, we prepare and cook the food together, and that's just absolutely part of the gorgeousness of it. Not to just come and necessarily sit down and be served, but to take part. And I mean, that's what I've always found too in art making, that you really, in order for something to be successful, everybody has to sort of meet halfway, and then you're really hitting a wonderful experience. You can't sort of have voyeurs or yeah, you have to participate. And and that's the philia, the deep friendship. How are we doing on time? Were we good?
I think we're good. Yeah.
Oh, I have some recipes I want to talk about, and also thinking of coloring love with fearlessness. And one of the most fearless recipes in the book, which I love, is octopus direct on the burner. What the hell? That's amazing.
I like how you think about that. I'm gonna put that in my back pocket about it being a fearless recipe.
That's really fearless.
So do you want me to talk about that recipe?
Yeah.
I was forced into it. The truth is that I was cooking this dinner for a gallery, and the director of the gallery was like, "I want octopus. Like, if we're gonna hire you, you need to figure out how to make octopus." And I thought to myself, okay, well, if I put it on the gas burner, it's kind of like it was what I had to work with, but it really, it works out really well, and it's really easy, and it tastes very similar to, that delicious octopus you get in Greece that's like charred and soft and lemony and salty. It's great.
It is fearless though. I mean, that could go wrong really fast. It's like Jesus.
You can do it in a pan. The recipe tester for the cookbook, just so everyone knows, the recipe tester for the cookbook did not have a gas stove. And she said, Mina, you got to make it also accessible to those of us that do not have gas. And she did it in like a cast iron pan, just a super hot cast iron pan, and said it was great. So you can do the safe version if you want.
No, I think the fearless version is amazing. I made so many of these recipes this July. I got the PDF in July, and I was on holiday with family and friends, and I was like, okay, we've got a lot of people to feed, and I don't want to be cooking all day. Now this was amazing too. The salmon.
You made that. Awesome.
I did. I made that. Yeah, that was like, oh, this is fancy, but it was easy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a recipe for salmon crudo that I got from the original was from an Alice Waters cookbook where it was just so life-changing. I remember I talk about it in the book, but she's like, cut fresh salmon, pound the slices thin, and then you stick it in the fridge. And again, I was like, this is amazing because it feels, like you said, fancy, but you can make it ahead of time. And then I kind of changed it. I don't pound the salmon anymore. I just cut thin slivers and then do it with a lot of lime and lime zest and just like super punchy. But the original recipe and technique is from her.
And then this one. Okay, this I made twice.
How did it go?
Once was amazing. It was literally genius. And the second time I made it too salty. I used the wrong kind of salt.
Yeah. Kosher salt is the key with that one.
Yes. Now I understand the difference. I totally get it. Yeah. All right. So we have a question here. Mina, can you tell us a little about your influences and aspirations and share a bit about your formation as a chef?
That is a big question.
Formation.
My influences as a chef have been always, I will say, accidental. I don't mean that in kind of the naive way, but I think maybe like me and Dara talked about, I fell into cooking by accident. I fell into it as a way to support myself after art school. I was trying to be a fashion designer and I loved it and I had my line. But I started cooking because, as I think people in fashion know, it's really hard to make a living. And so I started to cook for a family on the Upper East Side. I always loved to cook. It was just a twice a week job. And then I started cooking more and more, and it just sort of, in taking a very long story and making it short, the cooking kind of kept going. And then I started cooking. I did a dinner at Gavin Brown's for 40 people. That was the first dinner. Oh, you like that picture?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, there's some really, I don't mean to interrupt you, but there's some really good tricks here that I learned. Like, I had no idea that salad needed to be dry.
Really?
I didn't know that. I was like, oh, because sometimes my salads are great and sometimes they kind of sucked and I didn't know why.
Oh, that's great. Sometimes I get teased about like leaving out the details. And so I really tried to give the details of simple food. And that was one of them. I was like, salad has to be very, very dry. The leaves have to be very dry for the dressing to adhere and be crunchy and delicious.
That's amazing. Nobody ever told me that. It was great.
Glad, Dara.
And then the thing too with sometimes there's one recipe, a big chickpea recipe, where you throw in an entire clove of the entire head of unpeeled garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Isn't that freeing?
Yeah.
I hate peeling garlic. I hate it. And then at one point I was like, I'm going to put the whole thing in here, and then it roasts. And then at the end of it, like, everyone can do whatever you want. You can kind of squeeze out the cloves and put them on your bread. You can put them.
Amazing. It was kind of,
whatever you want.
yeah, it's like rustic and badass. It's like, wow, it's really cool. Yeah, there's some really good tips and tricks. And also the garlic, just sticking it into the tzatziki so you don't have to mince it. Amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of that. It was you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot. All right. So I'm not seeing any more questions, but I'm going to open it up to questions if there is. And if not, I'm just going to keep talking.
Dara. Okay, hold on, Dara.
What?
Let's make sure this person gets a question answered.
I think we did. We got the question.
Right. And share a little bit about more your formation as a chef. Yeah, that was it. I just sort of kept going better, and then I made a cookbook with Urs, and now this one.
Oh yeah. Oh, talking about this. Okay. So this. Can we just talk about this chef photo? This is my favorite photo ever.
I've really always been subject to Urs and Cassandra McLeod, who took all the photographs in the book. I've always been subject to them. Their eye just being like, this is the photograph, and that was the photograph they chose.
It's hilarious. This is all.
That was a really sincere moment. I was checking the salmon was fresh, which it was.
It's also demonstrating a form of love. And then the drawings are I have some favorite drawings. Oh, so cute.
I know.
So cute. Yeah, the drawings are great. Desserts, yay. It's just a delightful book with these drawings by Urs too.
Oh, we have some questions.
Oh yeah. Let me see. Okay.
From Violet and Jim.
Okay. Mina, can you talk a little bit about
We did that one.
Okay. All right.
Sweet.
Okay. Violet, the act of sharing a meal with so many people feels incredibly spiritual. Cooking for someone you love. Oh wait, Mina, I don't know if you can hear me. You've unconnected. Anyway, there you are. The act of sharing a meal with so many people feels incredibly spiritual. Cooking for someone you love is also an intimate and sacred moment. These are universal rituals of care. What do you think the importance of the ritual of cooking has, especially now in our chaotic lives?
Well, Violet, very good question. I think at its best, it can be a touchstone, I guess. You know, a place you return to come back to what you know is true and meaningful.
Yeah, what's coming to mind to me too, I'm going back to meatballs and mopping, are these sort of simple, repetitive acts that you sort of put intentionality into, right? I mean, we're sort of present when we do these things. And so, because I was always, yeah, you know, going back to your title, I mean, people can kind of say glibly, you know, ingredient is a love. One of the ingredients in cooking is love. But I was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, what does that mean? You know. But I don't know. I mean, not to answer for you, but is that part of it? This
I mean, I think so. You know, and when I had my interview with you, Dara, you spoke about this chicken soup that you made, that your mother made, that your grandmother made, and I thought about that, and I think, you know, the love and the food through a recipe passing through generations, that, you know, your grandmother, you're making the same thing for your daughters that your grandmother made for your mom, really stayed with me. And I think people verbalize that an ingredient in cooking is love a lot. Especially grandmas. I feel like grandmas always say, you know, and you put this and this and this, and you also put love in it. And I think my experience is that you can taste it. And I think I spoke about it in the book, where I'm like, you know, you can get your ingredients from the bodega, you can get them from the farmer's market, and sure, there's going to be some difference there, but I can't help it. I think that cooking is the sum of its parts. So just because you have not the best ingredients, or, you know, whatever, I still think you can make it taste good, or somebody can feel your intention behind the cooking.
You can nudge, yeah, you can nudge things into yumminess, into yeah.
Dara,
Mina.
my dad asked a question. Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry to blow up your spot there, but my dad wants me to talk about my development. Yes. Can you here? You read the question. Make it official.
Mina, can you talk a little bit about your development as a writer?
Good question. I'm not sure I have the perspective on that yet. I think that through the interviews I had to do for the magazine, that I got into a rhythm and a practice, and that was really helpful. And I think the same thing happened with the book, that a part of the development in writing is very similar to mopping and to sawing wood gently, where you have to find the space where you're not fighting against it, and that it's working for you. And a part of my development was just say what you want to say, and then you can figure the rest out later. And that in and of itself was actually really helpful, to just write and not worry about it too much, and then go back.
Well said. That's really good.
Oh, good.
Let that vibrate a little. That was a good one. That landed. Thank you, Mina. Good advice. Good. Just say what you need to say and worry about the rest later. Mina, what's your favorite recipe in the whole book, Aunt Monica?
Oh my God. I love that my family loved this evening. Well, I have two, I would say, and I feel like those two recipes kind of maybe really represent what I am talking about this whole time with Dara. One is the chickpeas in the oven recipe, braised chickpeas. That is a recipe I learned from the women on the island of Paros, where they make oven-baked chickpeas for the entire village, and they're the most delicious chickpeas you've ever had. And it fits with the ethos of doing very little but getting a really amazing result with very few ingredients. And that's one of my favorites. And then I would say the second favorite is the recipe for ice cream cake, which is not really a recipe. It's like a guide. It's like reminding you that you can make it. Dara, that's the chickpeas with breadcrumbs. The page
with orangeness.
Yeah, the page before it.
The page before. That's with feta and herbs. This is the.
It's the first recipe in the beans and
oven chickpeas.
There it is. Yeah.
Yeah, the description of this is really beautiful. And I actually looked up what a chickpea plant looks like. It's a little bush. And you have to pick all the chickpeas. And you love the ice cream cake. I'm going to find it. Because you talk about it being easy, and it's really.
This is like a real crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Great for a child's birthday, too.
Yeah. With the crust, and shaping it, the ice cream, all the ice cream. Very good. Beautiful. Okay. Yeah, and you like all ice cream.
I do. I love it.
Okay. Okay. From what you have said, I feel like the secret ingredient for a long and happy life is eating.
Uh-oh.
It's Greek, Mina. You gotta look.
Okay.
It's all Greek to me.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Oh, parea.
Parea. Yeah.
So we're talking about company.
Yeah. Parea. Yes. Long happy life.
Well, that is true, right? I mean, that's one of the big truths and meanings of life, I think. I mean, I say this sort of in this warm-hearted spiritual way, but I remember reading that one of the reasons people live so long in blue zones is because the idea of community and company is so fulfilling that they think it's one of the reasons why people live so long. That's not always possible, but we can try.
Yeah, it certainly makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Company. Yeah, company is key. Why else have children if you don't need to make company?
Good point. True.
We need company. That's beautiful. Parea. Okay, I feel like that should be a concept. That word has to be really introduced into the English language. Parea. Love that. All right. Okay, we're gonna wind up. Any last questions?
Any last questions before we let you guys get back to your Thursday evening?
Well, maybe that's it. But so Mina, I will see you November 12th, if not earlier, in Miami. And so I have to say, the vision for calling up Kathy and wanting you two to meet was we were having a dinner under these two enormous K-pop trees with like lights strung between them. And I really thought, this is where I want to sort of eat with Mina. This is just perfect in the open air. And it was kind of asphalt, so it wasn't too fussy. But it was these gorgeous, amazing K-pop trees. And I thought, like, yeah, this is really, really good. So it was, anyway.
So who would not want to eat with Mina
Yeah.
at this point? Oh my gosh. So we love this book. It is gorgeous. And thank you for sharing your love and your lemon and olive oil and all your wonderful ideas, in these recipes. It's fantastic. So I just want to remind everyone watching, if you don't have a copy yet, order it, please. There it is. Gorgeous, gorgeous book, a great gift book for the holidays. And
it really is, not to be obnoxious, but really, everybody that I know has been given.
And it's been tested by Dara. You know, like she has practically made every single recipe in the book. It's covered with Post-its. Show us the Post-it version, which we love.
I had the PDF.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So thank you so much, you know, for the conversation, the friendship, the love, and for sharing that with us tonight on behalf of Books and Books and Miami Book Fair. And thank you to Bakehouse Art Complex for your partnership. And we'll see you in Miami soon, right?
I can't wait. Yep.
Okay. Well, and thank you to everyone for watching tonight. My dog is like thanking you too down here. She's like, she gets excited when I'm like, thank you. Okay. So good night, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Bye. Congratulations, Mina.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.